I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
We didn't have enough time to get ready.
I had an hour, apparently not enough.
See, Tim, he gets paid the check, I get paid the cash.
Oh, wow. Okay, roll call. Paul Cuny.
I think I'm here.
Oh, fair enough. Al Davis.
Here.
Charlie Kuhn.
Yes.
Robert Laraway.
Oh, yeah.
Brett Peavy.
Here.
Carol Shannon. Yes. Dave Torgerson.
Yes,
Okay.
all here, 7. You have before you the agenda, additions, corrections? If not, agenda will stand as by unanimous consent agenda. Anything to be taken out? Examined, talked about? Thing not, move to accept. Motion made by Laraway to accept the consent agenda. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Davis. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed say no. Motion carried. Okay. We have a report from Roe. And, forgotten your name?
Aaron Wenzel, yes, sir. So, my name's Aaron Wenzel, as you said, I'm a senior project engineer for Rowe Professional Services Company. I've been working with Rowe for the last 8 years. For most of the 8 years, I've actually worked with your community, from about 2014 on. I lived in your community for about 3 years, I think it was. I was over on Fairway Drive, that side of town, closer to the dam. Very nice community. The reason I left, my fiance at the time moved me. I like to hear everything about it, so it's nothing against you guys. A little about Rowe. We're a professional consulting firm. We have about 230 employees. We're headquartered in Flint, Michigan. We have an office in Mount Pleasant that was opened in 1995. And I believe we've been working with your community since about 2000. We've got 50 licensed engineers or 50 licensed professionals on staff. We go anywhere from civil engineering, surveying, planning, landscape architecture, and aerial photography. So if any of those things come up, we can help you out with it. Very wide array of things that we can help out with. In recent years, we've been working with this village on, I think, the plans for the culvert up front, underneath the main access drive, some street resurfacing projects. There's some of the stuff we've done recently, including some of those being Birdie Drive and Alphamore Drive. I believe that's the main things I want to touch on just with Rowe. The main reason I'm here is just for you guys. Any questions you may have about Rowe, what services we can provide you guys with. If you want to know more about me, more about the firm. I know in the past that we've had a proposal in front of you to potentially do a storm sewer feasibility study. If you have questions about that proposal, we can help answer that. If there's anything, you can open up the questions that you guys might have for me.
Yes. Storm feasibility study is what we were interested in.
Okay.
What do we get? What's the bang for the buck here?
So what we're looking at with the storm feasibility study is there's going to be a little bit of survey work and there's going to be a little bit of using the Fetch GIS system, the contours that go along with that. The idea of it is figure out how much water is actually going to that corner of town right there by the gas station. Because that's where we understand that you're having a flooding issue in the stormwater. We're looking from about the main entrance here to about Birdie Drive is what we've identified as where we think the stormwater is coming from. With that, we want to survey the road about every 200 feet, trying to keep the costs down. Instead of doing a full survey, it'd be every 200 feet to just see what the road's doing. Also shooting the existing ditches and see how they're sloping in that area, and picking up the end sections on all the culverts to determine their size and the size of the culverts and the inverts of the culverts. We'd also be doing a little bit of survey down the road that goes out to your lagoon site or
Baseline.
baseline, they call it a lagoon site, but where lagoons were gonna go aren't there now. We'd be doing some survey down there, again, to see how, if ditches could be done, look at the topography of the ground. Now, we would also supplement that survey with the 2-foot contours from Fetch GIS. That's, these drainage areas of the water that's going there is very, very large. And that's not something we would typically use our survey crew to try and pick up, just because the amount of hours that would go into that for something at this high level. From there, we would basically be looking at, can we do it? Can we get the water out to the lagoons? That would be our main question we try to answer. And if we could do it, we'd look at some very preliminary cost opinions on what it would cost to actually do that work to get that done. And that would be what you'd be paying for and what you'd be getting. Kind of then your next step from that, you could make decisions on, is this feasible? Do we want to go after it? Do we want to make it a project? And make actual decisions from that investigation.
So you provide a list of options? Because obviously, what if it doesn't work?
So yeah, as part of that project, we're gonna look at the cost opinion for doing the simple culverts and ditches. That would be our first option. There's obvious other options that are already on the table. One would be a pump station. We've kind of looked at that in the past. You don't normally do stormwater pump stations. It's not, well, they're done from time to time, but they're not as prevalent as you normally see them, just because of the way pumps work. Everyone knows they shoot a certain amount of water out at a certain flow rate. If you have a large amount sitting there, it takes a little bit longer for it to go through there, but it only comes, rainstorms come in at flashes, basically. So you have it sized, a pump would be sized for a certain size rainstorm, and when a flash rainstorm comes, it may not be sized correctly. So you have to look at storing that stormwater also. So that's what makes it a little more difficult and a little less prevalent used in most situations. And then other situations are just seeing what else you have on site that could be used. I mean, I know we have a pond out there in front of the DPW building. I'm not saying that's an option that could be used, but that's another place that water could go.
You had some questions, didn't you, Charles?
Well, I think he talked about them, yeah, you get those options. You would hope that it would flow. Because then it becomes very expensive if we do the pump type situation. That to me, I see as,
Be nice if we could do it without that.
oh, for sure. Yeah. I don't know, I guess, yeah, you gotta have you guys to do that, find out if it's gonna flow there, because we're not gonna go out and serve that.
So it's just, it would be more or less a feasibility study.
Yes. Very high level feasibility study. Can this be done to get the water over to that lagoon site?
And if it can't, there would be other things to consider. Would that be included in the survey? The feasibility?
As our deliverable for the proposal was gonna be a memo, basically outlining what was possible, or if we could get water going that direction or not. And what we could look at as part of that, hey, the water's not gonna flow there. The other options we have are pump station or potentially looking at detention somewhere else.
You talked about detention.
Yeah, I mean, that'd be the first option I think available without a study for us is the available property we have in that area to see if we could just use that for detention purposes. We have 1 or 2 lots near Birdie and Coldwater plus DPW site. And if we wanted to start looking at detention basin type areas, that would be our options right there.
A little lake in the back there by the old pellet factory, not an option.
We have
We
no
don't
right
own
to-
it.
We don't have any right to go to it.
Yeah. We don't want to go under the road if we can help it, other than what's already there.
Preferably, yeah.
Because you're gonna measure, I assume, if whether or not that culvert would be large enough to if it did flow, would that culvert be large enough to handle it? Is that what we're talking about?
Which culvert are you talking about specifically?
Isn't there one there?
So, going to our DPW, I believe there is a 36-inch under Coldwater Road. And then as you get near baseline here, you've got 2, maybe 18 concrete ones that come under Coldwater Road, but nothing comes across baseline.
That's what we're talking about, going across baseline.
You know, if you can go further down on baseline, once you
Right.
get past pavement, it's a lot easier
Right.
to just cut it through the dirt road as opposed to cutting up the asphalt to do it.
How much was this proposal for this study? I don't have it in front of me.
13-ish,
I think it was between 10 and 12.
yeah, like 12,
10, 12.
10, 12, yeah, it's 12 more. 12 more, I think.
12 or something.
Because one of the reasons is here is because you guys had questions about what do we get.
Yeah.
So if you have questions, let's ask.
I think he answered what I needed.
Okay.
I needed. I still, you know, for the amount of money, I still am not happy, but I guess it is what it is, you know.
Takes some pretty heavy measurement things to do that, so, yeah.
I thought the bulk of the problem was like Birdie and Coldwater. Like right across, directly across from DPW. Isn't that a big collection area right there?
It's baseline.
Baseline
Oh,
is
baseline.
really bad.
Hmm.
Right by some property, I know.
I think probably the reason why it's not as bad at Birdie is it's so low there and undeveloped that they haven't built up that area to force the water out. So I mean, it does get flooded in that area, but there's nothing there where once you get down on baseline, that's a different story.
Mhm. I haven't gone very far on baseline, but I go as far as the dog
Yeah.
kennel, and when it rains, it's bad in there.
Are we talking about bringing the water across baseline to the north?
More than likely, we would have to bring it across to go south.
South, okay, okay.
Yeah,
And
south.
down.
Still, we
Yeah.
can go to the lagoon.
Okay.
Well, I think everybody's question here tonight, or the first question is, on this report, does it give us other options? You know, versus just the study and that's it. You know, it's my understanding, if it doesn't work, then you will present some options.
Yes, yeah, we can put some options in there.
And like I said, I think that was.
For
what
that
everybody
price?
was concerned that, you know, not just strictly a report, but is there options?
Yeah.
So I think that answered everybody, the majority of the questions.
Mhm.
Very good.
So,
Thank you.
And it would have a estimated cost factor to do the project too.
I believe that was in the proposal.
Yeah.
The construction to do the
Right.
project.
That it? Thank you. All right. We have an opening, as we know, on the planning commission, and Leo Wickert has consented to taking that position and having someone new involved in the area. Businessman, I work for the bank, and I think it'd be good, that would be my suggestion, to put him on the planning commission if there is no objection.
You say he works at a bank?
Used to.
Oh, used to.
Retired.
In charge of home loans, Lake Isabella Bank,
Okay.
30 years.
30-some years.
He's older fellow like us.
I'd like
I have
to
no
see new
objection.
blood on, so I'd go along with, I don't know the gentleman, so I can't vouch for him. All I can say is I like new blood on.
Yeah.
And,
He bought Arnie's house.
oh, okay, yes, I had talked to him, I said hi and stuff like, I mean, no in depth of the conversation. I didn't realize that was very there.
Yeah.
I never come to him.
I know him personally. He's a good man. Good person.
Bob, you're chairman, what do you feel on it?
I'm not sure,
Oh, you know, you're represented for the board here, that's right, the council, that's right.
but I have no problem.
Okay.
Leo Wickert by unanimous consent. Okay. Thank you. Anything else? Bring it up later. All right, Mr. Manager.
A few items just to quickly touch base on, trick or treating, Halloween night, 5 to 7, that's standard as our resolution adopted like 15 years ago, so that's those hours. the video that I made for the bond proposal is online. We linked to it from our Facebook page, it's on our website. The last mailing piece went to the printer yesterday. It's the trifold that got sent out, so hopefully that'll be out within a week or so. We have 2 more community meetings coming up, October 25th and 27th, both of them at 6 p.m. here at the office. I don't remember if we had anyone that
No.
signed up for
We have
those
not done
2
that.
meetings, so is that something that we could
Yeah, we should do that.
take a peek at right now before we move on? So next Tuesday's the 25th and next Thursday would be the 27th.
Tentatively, I can come the 25th, but I should be able to,
I could do the 25th.
6 p.m.
Yep.
Anybody for the 27th?
I'll be here for both of them.
You're a good guy. Thank you.
6 p.m.
Yep.
Like on the 25th.
Come 27th. I'll try to make the 26th or 27th off, but I just don't know the schedule.
Seven, Bob's doing both.
I'll try to do both, but
Okay,
I can't guarantee both. That's the thing.
I'll put you down for.
Both of them, put me down for both. but
All right.
I can't guarantee.
Okay.
I know something's going on. I don't remember what day.
Maybe it's 26.
It could be. That was the thing I was supposed to look at before I came here.
Okay,
We have not heard back from our attorney on the question you asked about potentially using the ditch that runs through the DPW and the drainage study. Whether or not there's any liability or legal issues if we were to increase the flow through that as part of that project. That would help a lot. I was in Muskegon this afternoon for MML convention. I go back tomorrow morning and I'll be there through the end of the week. Last week, week and a half ago or so, I conducted our annual Paiser rating of the village streets. Paiser is something that we've used for over a decade now to rate our streets. It's a numerical system that based on the observed distress. And we've done this before, showing you the videos. You know, whether longitudinal cracking, transverse cracking, alligator cracking, rutting, you assign a numeric score that corresponds with, recommended treatments. So looking at our major street system, this year they came in Paiser wise at 4.95, which was up from 4.4 the year before. That puts us in the fair category for that. 4 to 5 is fair. 3 is poor, 2 is very poor. That'll be important in a minute. Looking though, we have 2 really big paving projects that we've undertaken as a community. In 2003, we did the major street paving project. That project did about 5 miles of paving roughly on our 7+ miles of major streets. 3.5 inches with a 2-inch single pass and 1.5 inches on the top. Both of those were 13A. So that pavement is 19 years old at this point in time. So looking at how that asphalt has aged over the 19 years, we've obviously invested, a lot in crack sealing over that time. And we've also taken out the pieces that we've since redone. So the Queensway portion, the El Camino portion. So this score reflects only the remaining pavement from that project. It's just under 4. Last year it hit 4. This year it just slid below that number. That's pretty good in my book for pavement to be still pretty decent at this age. And a lot of it goes to our traffic volume. There's not, once you get off of Queensway and El Camino, the traffic volume drops considerably. So like Bundy Drive where I live, 400 cars a day, you can extend that life in the street a lot longer than the 2,000 cars a day at Queensway. One of the things that we are able to document now, because we've gotten enough data points in, is the difference in how the projects in terms of the overlays have performed over time. So the red line represents only, the overlay. So starting with the Queensway El Camino, then Birdie, and then this El Camino job, we've done what's known as a mill and fill. So we've gone in, taken 1.5 inches off, put 2 inches back on top. Prior to that, Bundy, the original El Camino, and Clubhouse, those are just straight overlays. Dump 2 inches of asphalt on top of what's there and call it good. So the red represents how the overlay lasted. And then when it meets the blue, obviously it's from that point forward. The green represents the mill and fill projects. In addition to being different in terms of the process used in the construction, those are also all newer mixes. So all the original overlays and the original major streets were 13A, which is a Marshall mix. We've done a low volume super paved mix on 2 of the projects, and we did 4EL. These are the newer mixes for the last 3 jobs we've done. And you're seeing at the same comparable point in the life cycle of these 2 pavements, almost a 2 pacer point difference between how they're aging and how they're performing. So it'll be interesting to see, over the next couple of years, how these lines, deviate from each other. But it looks a lot like what we're doing now is working a lot better in terms of the performance we're getting out of our asphalt. Looking ahead to our local streets, remember when I said the 3 and 2 would be relevant? Well, that's why they're relevant. Our local street score is down to 3.06, which is poor, just hovering above the very poor range. The bulk of our local streets were paved in the local street paving project in 2007. So this is 15 years ago. 15 years ago, actually, like this month, because it was September, October we paved. That was 2.5 inches on a single pass, about the most you really can do. All 13A. That pavement stayed in good condition for 6 years, fair for 11. If you look at our major street, which is 1 inch thicker, it stayed good for 10 years and fair for 18 with a higher traffic volume. So that 1 inch really makes a heck of a difference. Why we're looking at this in this way, working on a proposal for you to consider about what we need to do in terms of our streets moving forward. When we look at what we have in front of us, I think we really have to look at the special assessment process for this reason. A millage that just levies a flat amount isn't an equitable thing based on what streets need to be done and how. So there are the local streets that got paved in 07, almost all of those are going to need the same type of treatment versus Fairway, which was paved later, or Queensway, they might need a different type of treatment. Same with the majors. Bundy, where I live, is in much better shape than, Clubhouse over here. So to have an equitable plan presented that says, this is how it directly impacts you, that's really the option I want to pursue. I'll obviously give you the millage comparable if you wanted to go that route. But that's kind of where we're looking at in terms of what we want to present to you. But we're also thinking internally here about, what that benchmark number is going to be in terms of last year we did our prioritization of our major street network based on our traffic data. These are the most important, these are the least important. So what I'm looking at in this proposal is, what standard do we maintain those to? Do we want to shoot for a 6, let's say, for the most important, in 10 years, 5 years, whatever we put that benchmark as? And will we accept a 4 for, where I live, because it's got 300 cars a day versus a 6 over there? So these are the different type of nuances that are going into the thought process and what I'm putting together. It'll be a long report. I've been thinking through it for probably a year at this point in time now, but definitely the next big thing on the horizon with, the millage stuff we have this year. This got pushed to the back burner. This is the next big thing I'm going to chew on. And I know you're not crazy about special assessment.
You got it. But the
Just
other-
acknowledge that right now.
but the other problem we have is, it all depends on what happens
Sure.
on these villages and how the people react.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, it'll give us a very good determination, and then I don't think we want to hit them right away with the street, so we probably want to wait a year or two. We do, well, we have to for the main streets, right? If
Well,
we
your
did
next
for
election, you know, if you want to do the millage route would be 2 years,
2 years.
you know, so.
In the meanwhile, we'll probably be down around 2 on some of those streets.
Yeah.
So is there a point of no return?
There is,
Where you have to,
you know,
start over?
it's important to know what distress is giving it that rating. So, you know, a lot of our locals are coming in at a 3, but it's a 3 not based on any major structural problems in terms of base and that kind of stuff. So, you know, it's still, it's still fixable at that point, with the exception of like Essex. Essex was paved before we were a village.
Yep.
And it hasn't been touched since. I mean, so you're talking 25 years. And that street, you know, is cracked to kingdom come. So,
Do you get the data added up for Lincoln or not yet?
I have all the streets done, yeah.
Yeah, I just wondered, did you post the data and I missed it?
No.
No, okay, that's all. Some point you'll let us know.
But I can give you the big spreadsheet, yeah. It's got 20 years of data on it.
Rich and I are the only ones that want to know. Right, Brett?
Yeah.
So, what, you don't need to tell us now. You can
I can tell you, all of Lincoln was between a 3 and a 4.
Ah,
That's what I can remember. I don't think there are any 2s on Lincoln.
got it. Okay. And then the traffic that came through, that we had numbers for one day, but what about,
Number for 4 or 5, I haven't actually,
okay, got it. So you'll let us know that?
yeah, I haven't
Okay,
done
cool,
that
thank you.
on that yet.
Tim, let me ask you this, when you were saying about special assessment versus going out for a vote, are you talking about on all streets or special assessments for the secondary streets and a ballot issue for the main streets?
No, I wouldn't at this time foresee any ballot issue at all. Um, Because again, if you do the main streets, you get into that question of equity where a local street person's gonna pay the same mill or 2 mills, but it's only gonna address Queensway, El Camino, Birdie, Clubhouse.
Right.
You know, whereas if you do, you know, a flat mill across the entire village, is the person on El Camino or Queensway that have already, you know, had the project done, or someone that needs a lesser level of improvement done to their street, getting the same treatment as someone who needs a more reconstruction. Plus you have several streets out there, Bishop, Seabury, Channel, Northview, Channel West, that are unpaved.
But on the other hand, you look at those streets and you say, is it fair to them? They also got them paid through the funds, the general, not the general funds, but our funds that we have here. They didn't come in and spend additional money. They used our money as well as
Yep.
their money to get their streets done, so.
Yeah. That's why I'd like
At that
to,
point,
I'd like to try and not do any type of outside funding for the major streets for that reason, but I don't know if we're gonna be able to do that. And again, we're investing where the traffic is right now.
We're gonna have, be prepared for the question from the people, if you raised our millage for a walking trail and now you want to charge us more to drive on the road.
yeah, but you're gonna still be charging. I mean, just a different method. You're still paying it through a special assessment versus.
Perception, Paul, perception of the people. That's what I'm saying, we need to recognize.
Right.
All
I know I'm the only one
All
against
they're gonna
it.
see
I am
is
strong
walking
against it.
trail and now road, make
Right.
up your mind.
Right, but you're still gonna, to me, you asked me that question, I say I'm still paying, it's just a different method of paying. Do
I
go through my
agree with
tax
you.
lien? Do I go through that? I still have to pay.
We need to look at it from our residents' point of view too.
Well,
Be ready for what they're gonna say in that.
We'll know more information in about a month anyway.
that's for
Yeah.
sure.
Yeah,
If
good point.
millage goes or not, so.
If it
That'll
doesn't
help
go,
us
it's
decide
a
on
lot easier, so.
Any other questions for Tim? That's the end of your report then? All right. Good job. Thank you. Okay. Sherman Township. Mr. Gray.
Got a couple of things here. I don't know if you guys pay attention, but the bridge on Woodruff Road going north is probably about 75–80% finished. So hopefully in the next month or so, they'll get it done. I know they've been through the grapevine, because I don't use that road that much, but lots of people keep asking when they're gonna get done because of how they've gotten to get rerouted around. It's not a close one, so. As for our ARPA funds, we've already started the progress of putting in the walking area in the Sherman Township Park. The excavating company came in and has actually bulldozed out and done the entire loop that we've got. All the extra dirt and everything that came from that went to fill in the old mud hole that they used to use for mud racing or whatever in there. They hadn't filled it completely, but it made a big difference, so we'll have to come up with some other ways of filling it the rest of the way in. They're gonna probably still pave it yet this year, so there's a good possibility yet, hopefully before any more snow flies, that it'll be up and running and available for people to go out and walk on it, so. The other thing that we're gonna use some of the funds for is improving some stuff, well, not necessarily ARPA fund, but the hall itself, the main front door for the hall building has a water leak that goes through there, so it burned out the light underneath there, so we're actually talking at this point about ripping that completely off and building a whole new little enclosed entrance, so you would walk in to like a little foyer area first and then walk through the second set of doors to get into the building too, so. We're just starting to talk about all that stuff, getting ideas together, and getting some bids together for what it's gonna cost us on those. And then the last thing with the ARPA is, we're still gonna go ahead and do the purchase for the 800 megahertz radios to help the Nottaway Sherman Fire Department be fully stocked with the radios. That is something Nottaway Township as of right now hasn't shown any interest in helping out. And normally it's supposed to be like a 50-50 split for some of that stuff. At this point, I think Sherman Township Board is just gonna say, we're gonna fund it ourselves through Sherman Township. It's about $38,000, but we're gonna use our ARPA funds for doing that. I think it'll really help out Chief Livermore, especially up on the northwest corner of the county here that we have to cover. There's really sparse areas where some of the current radios they use now don't work very well up that way. So I think this 800 megahertz or 800 gigahertz frequency they're on is really gonna help them out a lot, so. If you don't mind, also with I'll combine the fire department stuff information here. We've had 366 runs this year. So we're on track for a record. Just as last month in September, there were 61 runs. Of those 61 runs, 49 were here in the village only. So I'm actually starting to get reports from them. They actually figured out how to do it so they can say the village is like the Bella reports. So if you guys want the information, I can give you the breakdown on the numbers just for the village only. So, the other thing too, with our new rescue truck is now fully in use. All the tags are on it, the lights are on it, everything's working. They've already started using it here in the last week or so. The old light rescue truck is now up for sale, which they're doing it as a bidding process. So if there's any interest, and I let Tim know in case there was any interest for the village at all too, but they're taking bids for that light rescue truck. So. And then lastly, for the fire department, just purchased 4 thermal cameras, which are really helping out a lot. Chief Livermore really likes them already. We were able to play with them in the last meeting and point at the walls, point at a person, you can literally see distinct differences. And when they go into a smoke-filled house, that they say is going to be cutting down on the amount of time it takes them to find people in the houses and do that kind of stuff. And or when they go into a room, check the door out to see how hot it is and stuff like that too. So he was tickled pink to get those in there. But I think our biggest thing that Chief Livermore really likes this year is they purchased a used, I forget what they actually call it, but the device you put on top of a person and they're having a cardiac issue and it does all the CPR for you. Do you remember that? I don't remember the name of it, Tim, if you don't, but.
Yeah, it's a chest compression.
Yeah, something like that. So, they have used it multiple times. Been told by the paramedics that it helped save a lot of people's lives. If you've ever done CPR yourself, you think you could go forever? I've done it. About a minute and a half in, you're ready to change out with somebody else. This machine does it all for them and also does all the monitoring as for that kind of stuff. They did finally have to use the extension. Usually what they'll do is they put a plastic piece underneath the body. And then the other piece goes on top and it snaps in. So that way there's something hard underneath the person, so the compression can do the best thing. They had one particular person they had just used it and they could barely even get it snapped down. The person was a bigger person. But he said that made a world of difference, you know, with that machine being able to do that part of it, so. I think that's all I have for. Yeah, that's all I have for the fire and for Sherman Township, so.
Okay.
If there's any questions.
Anybody? Thanks, Jim. Nicola,
And if you want me to, I can run right into the Polar
you
report.
might as well.
Just real basic stuff on there. There's only 2 issues. They are up to 980 paid members this year. Not a record, but it's still getting,
So
Better,
better than
better.
it was?
pardon me, the record was 1,016
Oh,
or something like that at one time. Maybe it's 1,061 or 1,016. I don't remember which number it was. So, but it's still better than what it's been over the last couple of years. I think George gets a lot of credit of pushing out and getting people to do, you know, their membership dues and stuff like that, and offering them, hey, we'll forgive stuff that you haven't paid for the last 10 years if you want to become a new member now, and you can get back in that way too. And then in the last meeting here last week, the biggest subject we talked about is they're finally expanding the storage area. They've got the money set aside for doing it, but George is doing something a little bit different than what I was expecting. The new storage area where they're gonna expand to, they're actually gonna put in 6 inches of gravel throughout the entire area. So not just the driving area, but also where you actually park your vehicles and stuff like that. That's not how the original storage area is. The original storage area is just grass, and then they have done gravel on the driving area, but now they're talking about doing the whole thing. It's $22,000 just for the gravel alone. And then they still have to put the fencing up and doing the carving out the road and all that stuff too. I think it's a bit more in my own personal opinion, but we'll have to wait and see how it works. But because of that price and the price of the fencing and all that stuff, this is probably gonna take them 2 years to get it completed. They're talking about right now just doing the gravel stuff yet this year or in the spring. And then waiting another year and put the fencing and stuff up because of the cost of it. So I don't love the way they're doing it, but it's nice to be able to see it. They had 18 people, I think, that were waiting to get in because the storage lot is currently full. So I think if our numbers are correct, I think he still had 18 more people on the list. So by expanding this, they're supposed to put in 61, I think it was 61 more spaces added on to the storage area. So I don't know when it'll get done. Pardon me?
Are they gonna charge more for the new ones?
As of right now, they shouldn't. They've already raised the rates 50% last year. So I used to pay 70 a year, now it's 105 a year for my storage. So they're bringing in more money for doing that, you know, depending on the length of the thing, but they raised all the rates last year or late fall of the previous year by 50%. So there was no other talk of raising the rates beyond that, so.
But don't you see people going from the old unit to the new unit because it's all gravel? So they just want to swap out, so
They might, in my sense, I don't care. I actually,
No.
George, part of the thing, the reason George wants to do the gravel, he says overall maintenance will be easier. They don't have to weed whack and cut grass and do that kind of stuff, which. Okay, yeah, I get that idea, but is it worth $22,000 in gravel? Again, my personal opinion, so. But I don't know, you may see people do that to where they just think it's easier to park on gravel versus the grass, so we'll have to wait and see.
Okay,
But as of right now, there's no price difference in the spots, as far as I know.
all right.
One
Thank
question
you.
for him if I could.
Yeah, go ahead.
Did they talk at all about the torch run request?
I'm sorry, the what?
Torch run request?
Torch run request?
So we've been presented with a request to use Lake Isabella next year for the law enforcement torch run, which is a bike, 5K and swim. That they were supposed to discuss at that meeting since it would obviously involve the use of a park.
I can bring I left my minutes at home with the notes there, but I'm 99% sure they didn't talk about it.
I emailed them tonight to see.
Okay, well, I missed the previous meeting, so if they talked about it then, I don't know.
No, it was supposed to be last
Okay,
week.
sure. So, no, as far as I know, they did not talk about that.
Thank you.
Yep.
All right, no public hearings, public comments? Seeing none, existing business. Zoning code map. Mr. Manager.
Oh, I suppose that would be.
That would.
Yes. Your first item of business this month in existing business. Last month, the village council received the recommended draft from the planning commission for the zoning code and zoning map update. Two members were not in attendance last month, Shannon and Cooney. The council did decide the question that was before them regarding attached dwelling unit sizes. And then said, we want to hold off and let these two individuals have a chance to share comments, concerns before we would move forward with the process of scheduling a hearing. Because once it's introduced for a hearing by the council, all changes are done. Grammar, that kind of stuff is fine, but you can't make any substantive changes at that point in time, so.
I already asked my questions before the meeting. I had several questions about definitions, so I'm all set.
So are we talking just what's here or what?
Neither.
I was driving around the lake and looking at different things, and there is a house going up on Clubhouse Drive down by the park, which is a barn shaped house. I think nothing wrong with it, and it's next to an old type farmhouse. Because, so they're two in a row. So you got the new version and the old version. The new one has steel siding on it, which we don't allow in the garages. It can be up and down. I mean, it is up and down. It's not sideways. We don't allow garages to have. I just look at that, and then I look at other houses and I say, okay, the material goes. Well, my old house before I put the siding on, it was up and down, it wasn't sideways. I just looked at how many different homes we have, different types of homes. And that's one of the things that drew me to Lake Isabella on top of the lake. I mean, the lake was the biggest thing. But it was so much different because I grew up in a neighborhood in Detroit that you had a house after house after house. And you had to look kind of closely to make sure you were in your house because they all look the same, I like the difference. I also like it that the younger people are coming in and, like with this, I take it's a young couple, but I'm not even sure. It could be an old couple in that house. I don't know.
Age is relative.
Pardon?
Age is relative.
Good point.
But anyway, I think one of our things is we're tightening up to a certain extent. And I worry about it. I do know the public did speak their piece on the garages, okay, but it was a very limited amount. If you look at the overall, how many people fought it. And I'm not trying to say, let's open it up again. We've gone through that. I think we need time to let it settle down and give it time to do stuff. But I'm just saying that looking at siding, looking at this and that, some of the stuff, I think we get a little too carried away. I'm not gonna sit here and debate. I'm just throwing my feelings out and let you guys think about it too. And if it goes through the way it is right here, that's fine. But some of the points that we had in here, the planning commission did not recommend it. It was this body right here that recommended it. We overruled the planning commission on it. I just want us to think a little bit before we go ahead and do it. I'm not saying we postpone it any longer than tonight. I just think we ought to think about it a little bit more about the stuff. I'm more open to have it a little bit more relaxed. But again, I'm not gonna vote it down. If you guys say this is the way it is, I will do it. But I did voice my opinion with Tim all through as the planning commission was doing it, how I felt on different things, and he gave me some good answers back. And I thought about going into each detail with you guys, and I thought, no, it's not needed. But I don't, the other thing was the zoning board ask for some more relaxation on how they can look at stuff.
Yep.
Well, to me, how do you relax that without? Then everybody would be going to the zoning board of appeal to get it if we relaxed it. I think if it needs to be relaxed, it needs to be relaxed by us on the overall thing, not on the board, because the Board of Appeal, to me, if we start opening that up, I see everybody running to the zoning board, because I would, I mean, if I wanted something, oh, I can get it through the zoning board a lot easier, I can't get it through the council, you know, so. That's just my 2 cents. You guys can say ignore it all and just say, let's vote for it and go, and I will say yes. Just give my 2 cents for it.
I hear a lot of chatter of, you know, if we're gonna introduce this, and it's, I don't know how many 100 pages, 250, something like that.
About, yeah.
You know, if we're adding rules, but, you know, then you can drive by numerous houses that aren't in compliance. And it's like, well, what's the point of coming out with all these new rules if they weren't following the old rules? Such as blight, so like, I mean.
It's not a zoning ordinance.
What, blight's not?
Blight's not in zoning, no, that's police power ordinance, entirely separate ordinance.
I'm just saying, you know, for what the general public's gonna say about, you know, different things. Or, I mean, even as far as like a barn, you know, why does this person get to build it here? Cause they're in a different zone than this person. You know, having different, I mean, it makes sense from my end. I'm telling you what other people are saying, not what I think. This is,
Part of it is they're not, like the comment about blight, and blight is not covered by that. That's part of the confusion as well. As far as what rules fit the zoning ordinance, what are just basic community rules. So it gets to be confusing.
And with respect to this, we went in the lessening of rules on almost every aspect of the code here.
Yep.
And that's the direction this went, was easier to build, less requirements, faster approval process, and we went in that direction with the exception of LR4 proposed area, because that was the area that we went and looked and said their building use restrictions are different than LR1. And they have different standards that our zoning code doesn't meet. So we could potentially be in a situation where we approve something that's contrary to what they would be required to build. So we bump those up. And that's the coolie flats, for lack of a better term. But with that exception, we went the opposite way.
It seems like it's less, I mean, there's a lot of pages, but there's fewer variations in the rules. I would agree from my first looking at it when I started, and now there's a lot less.
We made
I totally have to agree on that. It's a lot more understanding format that is put in, definitely.
Yeah,
That
much
definitely-
easier to use.
I mean, it's to me, a great improvement, because it's more, you don't have to jump here, there, and everything else. So what
Yes.
Tim basically has tried to pull together, and the planning commission, I totally agree with that. Okay, I totally agree on that. The other thing is too, answering your question, is we now have code enforcement. Before, Tim was trying to throw the balls up and catch every one of them, and he can't do it. So we now have a code enforcement. He's going to get a vehicle, so it's gonna be dedicated to him. We are going to court more. The question then comes up, and it's a little bit different than what we're talking about here, is we're at 1 mil and we have a new vehicle. We have 2 new people in the last couple of years. Health insurance, cost of everything. I don't know how we're gonna be able to do a lot of things we've been doing, because our costs have gone up without our mill going up. Okay, and how do you ask people for the mill? We can't ask for 2 more years. And then I think we're gonna have to ask for a mill in 2 years, just to keep us even at what we're doing today without any new stuff. Because, and I'm not faulting, I'm saying, this is reality. You can't go on 1 mill and do all the things we do.
The other issue I think we dealt with too was having had COVID, it affected our time in court. and what we could do as far as those kinds of, getting things done the way they needed to be done. And people don't know that. They only know that, you know, there's this mess and nothing happened.
And our legal fees are gonna go up,
Yeah.
because we are gonna be going to court
Yeah.
more. I think, until people realize that
They have to follow.
they have to follow the rules.
You know, on the lessening side too, even with the garage stuff, the planning commission intentionally didn't want to touch a lot of that, just the scar was still fresh. But they did lessen those requirements. So if you look at the point system is more friendly, like you can use all of your side points on one side, it's slightly lowered. And also, you know, one of the things that we previously had in there was if your sidewall was over a certain height, it had to be double. They dropped that down to 1.5. In a huge change. This is a huge change, is that definition of footprint. Well, right now, we say your footprint is wherever you're in the ground. So if you've got a lean-to that's coming into the ground, that's your footprint. This ordinance takes that and says it's where the building, the foundation, if you will, meets the ground and the sky. So that opens up tremendous size increases on garages because you can do that lean-to on the side now and not count against your square footage. So.
Bob, being intimately involved with this, what do you think?
I think we've gone as far as we can go with it at this point. I'm happy with it. I mean, I'd like to live in a perfect world, but we're dealing with people.
yeah.
You can't cover everything in the world. We don't, we loosened it up a lot. Not to say in a few years from now, we might not loosen it up some more. But I think we've gone as far as we can go with it right now.
I know you guys have spent
Hours.
hours and
And
days.
And we've addressed the major concerns that came up about it. Everything from the dwelling size to the bed and breakfasts and everything in between.
Did we get much input from the public?
I'm sorry?
Did we get much input from the public? Did we have people, a lot of people attending the meetings?
Main info we got was against bed and breakfast.
Right.
Public hearing, yeah, this place was packed for that. There were probably 40
Yeah.
people in there.
Yeah, and I'll take the tip for that. I mean, I was all for it, and that did show me that the general public, which I misread, didn't want it. And I was happy that they came out and talked that.
They were loud and clear on that.
Yeah. That I had no problem at all.
And changes to the zoning and like the footprint thing specifically, that all came from public input. Yeah.
But I just hope that if we pass this, let's just say today we pass everything. I'm just hoping that within 5 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, something doesn't come up, and the public comes back in and starts screaming. We gave them an opportunity again, clearly gave them an opportunity, whether they come or didn't come. This we should stick by, not back off. I mean, unless there's something, I'm not saying you never back off, but unless there's really something out there. I
We
think
got
we-
and considered more public input on this proposed zoning code
Mhm,
than anything I can remember since I've been involved.
yeah.
And-
Well, I'll tell you.
And are we gonna please everybody in the village? No.
We're making sausage.
And for your public hearing, if you introduce this and go forward to a public hearing, it's the same mailing list. Right.
Mhm.
So they're gonna get a crack at you guys coming as well, which
Right.
when the plan commission held their hearing, we intentionally said, we're gonna come back next month. We're not gonna try and wordsmith this tonight because we wanted to have a clean document on our website for people to see that we listened to your thing and we made the changes appropriately to the ordinance. And the next meeting, we had what, 4 people?
3.
Yeah, you know, we went from literally a packed room to 2 or 3 that were receptive of what we had done. So,
I figured my input today, what I said, I just voiced my opinion. I will go along with the majority. I have no problem with that. I'm just hoping because, next meeting will be my last meeting for 5 months. So if we vote on it, if everybody says yay and when the public doesn't change their mind or anything like that at the public meeting, I'm voting yes again. So, I have no problem with it. I'm not trying to, just want you to realize where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be a hard host. I'm not.
You're trying to look at
You guys said,
No, you're looking at everything. That's what we're here for.
yeah,
Okay,
One of the definitions that I'd like to go over is page 72, it says stick built. I think that should say site built versus stick. The reason is because, then down halfway through, it says, rather than a factory or similar facility. You know, what it is, and the reason that, I'd like to change that a little bit is because of the labor issues with all of us contractors, and not only the contractors, but companies. We're forced to change our building practices. In Leather Truss up there actually builds panels. And they can build them cheaper in the factory and bring them out, and you stand it up. It's stick built, but it's in this factory. So again, you know, instead of stick built, it should be site built. And then I think with somewhere in here, it should clarify that the panelized home, you know, like the pageant homes are very similar or the same thing.
well, that was a Wick home, too. Wick homes are like that.
Were that way. Yeah,
They used to-
pageant was huge and so was Wick. But again, just the panels themselves are made up there. Now, and then you stand them up and you know, you literally have the same home. It's just that,
Built off site.
the labor costs are just, savings is huge. And I think you're gonna start seeing that. So I was thinking that, you know, this paragraph right here, you know, under us, page 72.
Got it, thank you.
72. You know, again, instead of going stick built piece by piece, it should be site built, because everything's built on site. But then incorporate, you know, the panelized system.
Because you see, this is a trend.
I think it
This
is.
is going to be a trend for homes.
I think it is. You
So
know,
it's
a lot of
dangerous.
a lot of the commercial guys are using it. You know, I mean, they get jigs and everything else. They throw a 2x4, boom, 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 and then out the door is the whole wall. And then when they come on the job site, you know, like I say, you can't hardly beg, borrow, or steal. You know, ask Brent on this trucking, try to get a truck driver or anybody to work. And this is a high labor industry. And when you can take it, you know, up there, bring it out here, and, you know, you are setting, not all the panels, the bigger panels are set with cranes, but the average panels just set by hand. You know, when Pageant come in, a lot of theirs was on the trailer. And they had a crane on the back of the truck, but the crane could only reach so far, and the swing of the crane is slow and everything else. And a lot of the guys just grabbed the panels and stood them on. So, you know, that's the only thing that I could see is maybe adding or clarifying that just a little bit again for the future, you know, versus having to come back to it. And it's like, well, where do I fall into? Is this a manufactured? Does it come in under modular homes because it's built in sections? Which it shouldn't, you know, because it's
Because the modular comes on.
they come
Yeah.
modules. But, and
This
that's
is
why,
modular.
and that's why I was thinking, you know, the panelized homes should be in, and again, instead of saying stick built, if you said site built, that would cover everything. That'd be more of an umbrella.
You looking something up, Tim?
Yeah, I think that the definition we have of stick built covers this.
I'm on the page 72
Yeah.
here. That's where I'm reading.
Yeah, a structured dwelling constructed entirely or largely on site that is built on the site, which is intended to occupy upon its completion, rather than in a factory or similar facility. Structures that are custom designed or built according to stock plans are considered stick-built as long as they're constructed on site. I mean, just having like panels, to me, would be no different than rafters.
Well, but it says.
But
factory
it
or
says
similar
rather
facility.
than in a factory.
Structure
Those-
dwelling constructed entirely or largely on site, rather than in a factory. So the dwelling itself isn't constructed in the factory. If you look back at the definition of modular,
Yeah,
modular home, a factory built, single family dwelling other than a manufactured home, which meets the following requirements. Designed for erection, installation. So, I mean, if someone wanted to do panels, it would definitely be a stick-built home, in my opinion.
well, again, like I say, you know, if you just worded it site built, that covers everything.
Structure
And-
dwelling constructed entirely, largely on site.
What I was concerned
Yeah.
about, see, completion rather than a factory. And I guess I'm thinking out of the box as somebody coming with an argument that's, hey, those are built up there in that factory. This falls under,
Could we do a friends on the stick built and say, which allows panels to be.
Yeah, this definition includes
yeah.
panels, something like
Yeah.
that.
You could do that.
Yeah.
I think that would be
That
the
would-
best
that would
way
address
to do it.
Yeah.
That way,
I think that's a good point, because if that's where we're headed, we don't want somebody going to
There's lots of.
have to go to someone to complain as opposed to
Yeah.
set up, ready to go.
Give me a second here.
But not only that, it will encourage people. If that's the future 5 years from now, and that's what
Yes.
you're gonna get, that's, the trust company can build the whole house, practically, the walls in the house.
I'm gonna
Ship
say,
it down.
I'm gonna say the bigger builders are gonna trend to that. The
Sure.
smaller ones, maybe less, a little more time.
You mean the guy that builds it himself? He doesn't have to hire laborers.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's important. I think
Let's
that's.
see what we get here. But I mean, it makes it more affordable for the
Yes.
for the house, to the homeowner.
Yes. And faster.
Yeah.
Because it can be built ahead of time. So,
Our first home here was a wick home, so yeah,
Was it?
I'm familiar with that. Yeah.
I know, in Lake Isabella, I know, Shaker's built quite a few pageants. And, Otto Frick was the one that had the dealership for Central Michigan. He was up to Little Lake. And they, you know,
Sign definition.
there's, like I say, there's quite a few pageant homes here in Lake Isabella, so
Oh, yeah,
late seventies.
there's a few wick homes too,
Yeah.
3 or 4.
Yeah.
Then I know the one right here right across from the airport on Coldwater, the yellow one, that's a wick home.
See the difference between a wick home and
I know, we did.
Awesome. Wow, same kind, same deal, same deal.
Spelling.
Yeah.
You'd see both.
Probably came from the same factory.
Boats loose.
Could have come from the same factory.
we got a lot of loft out here.
They were in the park and it was 40 or no, 40 into the back.
We put something in the document, but it has to deal with it down the lane as a deal.
Well, and as I was increasing these, that's what, of course, you know, that's my business, that's what I picked up on. I guess, you know, it's. isn't it tough to-
No, I agree. I think it's important.
Well, I didn't, and I didn't think it was a super big.
No. I have a resource called the Planner's Dictionary. It just compiles definitions from various places around the country, and stick built isn't in here.
And again,
It isn't.
yeah.
Okay,
And
let's pick a
again,
new name.
well, like I say,
Let's go panel.
site built.
Site built's not in there either.
Oh, There you go.
Stick
Keep that. Well, we can make
Well,
We
our
just
own.
put it
Let's-
in our definition.
Right
Yeah,
there.
let's just put
Yeah.
our own in.
Well, we,
Yeah.
right here, panelized housing consists of factory produced walls, panels constructed approximately 8 feet and 4 feet, 40 foot. I mean, get rid of that part right there.
Yeah,
Yeah, and to put the panelized housing in.
I would just say
That's a
this
good idea.
definition includes panelized housing, and
Yes.
then include this part of the definition. here.
yep, I would do that.
I think it's a good idea.
That work for everybody?
That works for me. So,
It just, it eliminates
Yeah,
the
I
appeal down the line when we've already having to change to that. Yeah,
Well, we're all nervous with changes, you know, but I can see this.
now it doesn't have those ones where they do the styrofoam blocking. You see those houses that go up, they're like Legos.
I'm building one right now.
Oh my God,
I'm in my fourth one.
those are nice.
I think the price of natural gas is going up, but I was trying to get mine to $65 a month gas bill. Heat, cooking,
Everything.
everything. Domestic water. And, well, I've got electric dryer right now. I'm not gonna go out and buy a brand new gas one until this one goes. So
Yeah.
the two that I finished over the border, like, they're, February,
Even with a match, huh?
last, February, one, their gas bill was $75 and the other one was 80. And that's all Ford, you know, so.
Okay.
Yeah, they're huge, efficient.
You wordsmithing that now?
Yeah.
or-
Yeah, I'd be,
Okay,
I've got it here to.
all right, cool.
so if we agreed to those changes, then we can probably go on and pass that
Schedule for a hearing.
schedule for a hearing.
That's a good idea.
Yep,
We do,
well, you can,
well, I make the motion if we need to.
it's not a motion, I think we just have to.
Make the recommendation.
Introduce it.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, someone just needs to say they're formally introducing it.
Introducing what?
The proposed zoning code and map update.
Okay, I'm formally proposing this update then.
So what happened with the bed and breakfast discussion? That didn't go anywhere?
Took it out completely.
Oh, I thought I just saw it in there.
Took it, we left it in the
The
LR
definition.
five.
Oh,
Five.
okay.
We took it out in LR four.
It was in the part over
I
Okay.
need a roadmap for this thing.
Yeah.
I need a flow chart.
Yeah.
288 or 200.
And it was like, okay, read that page and then go all the way down here. Now go back and read that. Yeah, it's a,
But it's been it's a lot better now.
Oh, yeah.
oh, I know. Yes.
I was looking for the spot where there's a requirement of what kind of trees you have to plant. And it's 75%.
That's in cold water business, yeah,
Oh.
that's, and we do that for Michigan native species. So it's gotta be native species in terms of what you plant. Mainly so they don't die.
No palm trees.
No palm tree, I mean, you can plant them, but it doesn't count towards your required plant.
there.
Your required plantings have to be native species, after that, God bless you. I mean,
He goes up from the UP and now he wants palm trees down here.
Yeah.
This is his floor.
It's in Miami on Saturday.
Charlie's got a few in his front yard in Santa.
You truck them home, you got it for free.
Okay, that's done. New business. Budget amendments. It's up to you.
Well, take a look at them, guys. No changes.
Mr. Treasurer, take it away, Mr. Treasurer.
We had a big meeting earlier tonight, went through the budget amendments, which, you know, we have to do. They just, things come up. But I guess the biggest thing on there that came out was, you know, getting our COVID money spent, and it has been. And moved around in there. And, Tim, what things did you see that we should bring up? I mean, there's multiple changes you can see
Yeah,
that's been added and deleted to keep the budget where it is now. We'll do it again in another, 2 or 3 months. But,
so
It's
the-
every year we do that. It's not.
Oh,
every year.
sure, yeah,
Yeah, no.
yeah, and it still hasn't locked it in.
Correct.
We're gonna do it again this year.
So the really the big items of note would be the following. The original budget that was adopted in June planned for our second ARPA, American Rescue Plan Act, aka COVID money, payment to be received in this fiscal year. After that meeting, we received an email from the state around the end of June. Hey, you're gonna get your next payment within the next 7 to 10 days. Well, the next 7 to 10 days fell either in June or July. So we reached out and tried to get a firm date on that because we're a July 1 fiscal. And they said, nope, can't give you any direction. Payment on June 30th. So after the timeline that we could schedule a meeting to amend the budget, so we had to take that out of this fiscal year because it was already received in last fiscal year. That will present an issue on our audit because that means our budget end numbers were significantly off in terms of revenue because we had 87,000 more in revenue because the state couldn't tell us which day of the week it would come in at. That's a different issue.
That shouldn't be a big.
It's not a big thing.
Some outsider might look at it and say, what the heck's going
Yeah.
on?
Yeah,
But
it's good that you're aware of it.
Yeah.
What happened to the 87?
As you know, we did not get our category B grant for our street projects, so those 3 projects have been taken out for the time being. As we do the street stuff this winter, we can obviously reevaluate that come spring on how we want to bid something out in terms of a chip seal, that type of project. We had a little landscaping project we we're gonna do here. We just scrapped that. It doesn't appear that we're gonna get the dog park grant. So that's been removed from this right now until we find out what happens with our millage proposal. And if we do want to proceed with that, it would be my recommendation to not go after DNR funds for that project. Doing it ourselves to our own standard will be cheaper than building it to the standard that the DNR is going to want it built to. So it would be cheaper, I think, at the end to do it just ourselves rather than go out for additional funds. In terms of other expenses in there, one notable change is that when we did the budget, we had only planned for 2 individuals to be on our healthcare, with the third taking the buyout. That third individual ended up taking our healthcare because taking the buyout would have changed their tax bracket and they would have actually had less take-home pay. So understandable there. So that's all fully accounted for in there. When it comes to, the available ARPA funds, we had about $101,000 that was not already dedicated to other purposes. Of that 101, just a quick breakdown, it looks like we're going to be at about 33,000 for the sheriff between last fiscal year and this fiscal year. Our code enforcement vehicle would be 35. I would propose that we use both accounting and code enforcement software that we're acquiring out of the ARPA funds, and then the bed replacement for the truck. And that would take care of pretty much all of our ARPA funds, which I would frankly like to do just so we have that over and done with. And you can't come back and the Fed say we want some money back if you haven't spent it. In terms of our fiscal year budget shortfall, 137,000, that's a big number. But again, that goes to things that we're obligated to do in terms of spending those ARPA dollars. So you've got the vehicle, the road patrol, the software, those are all coming out of that. And then, capital improvement items like free carpeting here, the concrete pad for the DPW, the recycling bins, or added legal expenses from having 2 rather trying code enforcement cases this year. And then the materials we put together on the bond proposal. That covers more than our deficit. So we don't have any structural issues in terms of our budget or in terms of our finances that we would need to start looking at major changes to how we operate. We're perfectly situated right now to continue operating with our normal service package with our current revenue streams. Yeah, that was it. Finance committee reviewed it. They were in agreement to move forward with the proposed amendments.
Okay.
And I think it's good that we're showing that we've used our ARPA money and it's gone into our community. Because you hear out there, so many places, they got huge amounts of that money sitting in their books and aren't using it. And every time you hear somebody talking about that or hear it out, they say, our village used it for our people. And I think that's something we can say and get out and do it.
And I would add, I think it was smart that we used it early. With inflation, those dollars are less valuable in 4 or 5 years.
Right.
And we knew going into this that people that hadn't thought out what they were gonna do were gonna be coming in a year, 18 months and trying to do projects. And there's only so many people in Mr. Wenzel's field around to help communities. You need to get your money out and get it spent fast if you wanted to line some projects up.
So we made a recommendation to accept that.
Yeah.
So approved. I'll make that motion.
Motion made by Keel to accept resolution 2221. Seconded by McGrath. I mean, I had a brain.
I
Larry,
like it.
Larry. Okay. Any further discussion? Seeing none, roll call please.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Robert Laraway.
Yeah.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries. Cool. 7-0. Okay, public vehicle proposal.
Also reviewed by the finance committee was the vehicle proposal to move forward with code enforcement vehicle. We had talked previously several times about using an escape, which we could order through the state extended purchasing program. And then holding that through the end of 2026, which is when your ARPA obligations end. So this would retain as a general fund asset even past your ARPA close of books, if you will, which would be available at that point in time if you wanted to look at moving that towards replacing one of the pickup trucks as well. So this is our way to get a tangible asset that would have a hopefully higher resale value if we needed to ever liquidize that for any other purpose. So the finance committee looked at the proposal and they did add daytime running lights for a whopping $45 increase on the proposed cost.
Give the shop away.
Lavish, I know.
But we kept it to Shasta Daisy Pink.
Yeah.
Cheapest way to go, right?
Cheapest way. Yeah, they had an extra gallon. Yeah. Of course, it hasn't been made yet, but
Yeah, how long do they say it's gonna take us?
I would think the end of the year.
Well, I'll tell you what, I ordered an Edge.
Yeah.
And they told me I'm gonna be lucky to get it in 6 months.
Yeah.
It started production on October, not my car, the production of the new vehicles on October 8th, no, 16th, I think it was. And it's built in Canada, so, I mean, don't be surprised if it comes in late, it has nothing to do with
Yeah.
approving it or not. Don't be surprised.
So we've already approved this purchase.
We have
we proved it earlier.
Yeah, I mean, you approved the allocation of the funds, you haven't necessarily approved the funds
For that
are
specific.
the specific vehicle.
Okay, so we need a motion to.
I'll make a motion that we purchase this vehicle that is listed in such here. For approximately $34,476.
And 45 rolls.
No, he didn't do that.
Oh, you did it? Boy,
I
you're
can do
good.
that math in my head.
Wow.
Show off.
All right. Motion made
Just
by
for that,
Keel.
I would pay the tax on this.
Generous.
All right, did you pick a color yet? Yeah.
The finance committee, went with vapor blue metallic.
It's really nice.
Sounds cool.
It does, doesn't it?
Sounds good.
You will like it.
Sounds bad.
There isn't a lot of choice.
Yeah,
All right, so,
we need a second.
yes, we need a second for that motion to purchase this vehicle.
Mr. Davis. thank
Mr.
you.
Davis, seconds. Further discussion? Roll call, please.
Robert Laraway.
Yeah.
Brent Peavy,
Yes.
Carol Shannon, yes. Paul Cuny,
Yes.
Al Davis,
Yes.
Charlie Keel,
Yes.
Dave Torgerson.
Yes, motion carries 7-0. Okay.
Before we move on, Tim, did you, happen to check on the box for the truck, the flatbed?
Yeah.
Buddy Davy, he builds stuff like that.
Scientific was where I got a flatbed.
Oh, you do have one?
Yeah, they said they're gonna order it. so.
Is it all steel?
Yeah.
Oh, and that's what I was wondering, you know, he can custom built one and means it's a salt issue, you know, you could build a frame out of steel, but then put a wood deck on it. I thought would hold up better than a steel. But
It might, timing's more of a factor at this point in time,
he,
plowing.
he does it every day, but I don't know. But if you got one ordered, I guess, it's already,
Yeah, we looked, we had J&J look, we had Ford look for a box. No bueno.
a pickup box.
Yeah, just replace the box straight out. They could not get one. Even the dealer could not get one, which.
Okay.
Thanks for your offer. All the supports to the side of the body panels are even all rusted
Yeah.
out, so it's not like you could rebuild the box. I thought maybe we could reskin the box and like kind of fix up the old one, but all the supports are rotted out, everything's trashed.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, you know, I took the box off of mine and then I put a dump on it and I built the whole thing myself. And, you know, just to make the framework and put like a 2.5 inch oak on there, you know, that'd help on the salt issue.
Al, can you do it in 2 weeks? We'll change.
Yeah,
Okay, so let's go to, and item 3 under new business, water system, Forest 2. Him?
The Forest 2 water system. Mr. Laraway's favorite utility.
No, painful.
Yeah.
I like water.
The Isabella County Administrators reached out to see if we could sit down and talk water system, which new administrator certainly welcomed the conversation. So the Forest 2 water system was developed in the mid to late 70s as part of the platting requirements for Lake Isabella Forest 2. The CAD drawing on the left up there is where all the water mains run. So they come out of the 2 well houses, which are behind the storage area for the LIPOA. They run down behind the lots on Queensway all the way down to DeQuessa. They typically want to follow the back of the lots. They do that on Barcelona. Madrid, they go down the front of the street as well as Cordoba. But that area of the village, I went around this afternoon and just kind of did a quick count of vacant or occupied lots, parcels. 106 developed parcels in the Forest 2 plat, 58 vacant. That's it. That's all she serves.
And it should be noted that those vacant lot owners pay for it anyway. Yeah, pay an availability fee.
Everyone pays an availability fee based on the original.
Whether it's a vacant lot or not.
Yep. The village's position has long been, and it's even been somewhat enshrined in our master plan, that we would not be willing to entertain any discussions on this that don't A, include Gilmore Park, and B, don't address a long-term funding solution, potentially expansion to bring the number of users up to a more suitable level. Based on the fact that the water system at best breaks even under its current financial structure. You know, we are also very hesitant to look at it simply from the standpoint, we don't have a public works department other than myself and Jerry. You know, so there certainly is a staffing concern on our end where we have limited resources to get into this business. And it does not produce enough revenue to hire additional personnel to take on that responsibility. Plus the issue of having a staff member with the required state licensing to run a drinking water system. Drinking water and wastewater operators are in short supply. They are hard to find right now. It's a very competitive position to have. You know, there's a lot of reasons why it would have to be an incredibly good deal, in my opinion, for us to want to take it.
I totally agree with you.
And that's what I explained to her initially was, you do understand that the reasons why you want to get rid of it are the exact same reasons why we don't want to take it.
And what was your answer to that?
I know.
She was hoping we would feel differently.
So,
Okay,
If she could give us some good justification why we could handle it better than her.
One of the driving factors is their employee that has the required license is going to be retiring in 2 years. So they don't have a replacement plan for that position.
Yeah. Sorry about your luck.
No.
But I agree with you. If we don't get that park closed, well, I'd say that's a secondary, but really is the first. And we can't afford to add any more staff.
No.
Well, you know, it was their requirement
Right.
back in 1972 to begin with.
Yeah.
And this is what they get.
Right.
Now,
I
what I
totally
wanna
agree.
point out is, as a resident of Forest Two, and the only one that's using that water within this group anyway.
Mhm.
And I'm looking at all the homes and people that live up there. If for any reason the county shuts that down, those people can't afford to put in wells. Right now, they're paying an availability fee on every lot they own. There are a couple people there, got 4 lots, they're out on one, they're paying 4 accountability fees every quarter.
How much are those? Just the ballpark.
I'd have to look again.
Jessica, how much is our? Like 60
It's up to, I think, almost $70 per lot
$70
now for an availability charge.
per quarter.
Per lot, and they're, or per
Plus,
quarter,
plus the use of
per lot,
water.
and they are, a year behind in billing.
Just for availability.
The county and.
It started out at like 25, 26, very reasonable. In the last few years, they've raised it twice.
Well, they had to steal that tank.
Uh-huh.
The tank was a big thing and they had to go get a loan to do it, didn't they?
Well, we need to take into consideration, not just me, but, you know, we got a lot of residents that live up there. We need to take into consideration the things they're gonna need, the things that they're facing. Right now, they're totally at the mercy of the county. I think it was last year, the county forgot to send out bills. No problem, they just doubled up the next one. The people living on social security, a lot of them that there got behind, but they couldn't afford to do that. And again, you're paying, and again, if you're vacant lot, you're still paying that availability fee, plus amount of any water used. Now, I don't like paying all that, but if I gotta pay it, I just assume pay it to the village than the county. Now, I know they, you know, there's talk of, we wanted to Gilmore Park in the process and that, which is fine, because if we get more people using it, if we take it, and we get more people using it, you're gonna have to expand that well service.
Yeah.
And that's a good spot to do it.
The original plan, as best I have deciphered from the history books here, was that the system was supposed to be expanded into Lake Isabella North. The original platting of Lake Isabella North had a threshold of 125 septic permits available and only 50 well permits. And the model that we've actually used to go back and amend the building restrictions was what was done by Frank Cooley in 92, 94 to get those numbers brought up to the same. It was the written agreement option. So that's what we pursued through that process, but they bumped that up to 125 each, and then we went and were able to get them released, and hopefully we're gonna be able to get somebody at the state to finally sign off on releasing the lot swapping plan, which is.
So what we're saying, what you're saying too is, Bob, if they have to, if for whatever reason, people start building in there and stuff, that capacity those wells won't be able to handle the capacity, right? So what you're saying is, if we had Gilmore Park, we could put another well system there, if the village were to take it over.
Right.
Okay,
I think those wells run at about 45% capacity right now,
45%,
ballpark, yeah,
but there's only 58 homes on it?
106.
Oh, 106 and 58 left.
58 left, yeah. It could fully accommodate the rest of the forest.
Okay, I got you.
It could probably go higher, actually, because they don't have it maxed out.
So the issue is,
As far as paying, you know, nobody likes to pay that.
Right.
Again, I'd rather pay the village than the county. But even if it ends up costing the residents more, I would think it would be worth it, because frankly, the county can shut it down anytime they want. And you're gonna have people moving because they can't afford to put it in.
Can they do that? Can they shut it down? I didn't think they could shut it down.
County can do any damn thing they want.
State won't let them yank a municipal drinking water system. I mean, it just isn't gonna
What
happen.
does it cost for Union Township for people for water or Mount Pleasant? Any ideas?
I haven't paid a water bill in 15 years. I don't know.
I just paid a big water bill, I got a new well put in.
Yeah.
That was like, I was like $200.
Well, I would like to see the village get hold of Gilmore Park. The only downside I can see with that is that during the winter, that would give the village the only non-LIPOA access to the lake. They have to deal with that, but.
Yeah.
Overall, I would love to see us get Gilmore Park. And expand the water system that's there, just for the good of all the other residents.
I don't want that, I don't want Gilmore Park, I want that somehow we get into the LIPOA, not into the village.
Yeah.
I don't know how you pull that one off, but
It's needed as a public park. You kind of.
Yeah.
Need on that one.
So did you run the numbers on that? How much we would get off of that? 30,000? If they were paying us the $70 a quarter.
Oh, the system rate is operating spend or income is about $82,000 a year.
I was gonna say, it's gonna be quite a
It
bit.
comes out to about $800 per user.
You used to be on there, are you still on
I
that
still
water
am,
board?
still am. That's why I know this.
Conflict now.
Very much conflict here. You know, the options that I frankly would want to present to them would be to look at partnering with the city or Union Township to find an operator. You know, that license. Or B, put in place some type of, you know, loan program where the county would fund drilling wells for everybody and then like a special assessment almost. People would pay that back and close it out that way. I mean, just get rid of the water system and put everybody back on wells. The drinking water there is perfectly fine. All the flats across the street and behind it are on wells.
Tim, help me on that one. Why did they do the water system if they can have wells?
It was required to flat that
And it
area.
isn't anymore.
Right, but
I
back
mean-
then, to get it platted, they had to put in a well system because it was supposed to take care of that in north.
So all these came out right after the Clean Water Act came into place. So you had all these new environmental
Oh,
regulations.
okay,
And so the last 5 flats that had restrictions
okay.
came out after that, and this was also in that time frame. So they
I
were
thought there
looking
was
at
something
the
about
environmental
water
factors.
itself.
And what's the status with the fire hydrant?
And by the way,
Hey,
there's a big fight about that
Can't-
too.
can't use them.
Can't use them.
Nobody-
The hydrants in the system are unusable for anything other than flushing the system. The pressure in the system is below the threshold that the fire truck engines require. So you can't use them other than to flush the system out. So that's why we still have the dry hydrants at several locations around the area.
Do we have a
Raised
time limit?
by-
Look at this. All right, I think we need to think.
We've been incorporated since
Actually, I think
1998.
we should go to town,
Been doing it
but
for a long.
realize that
Taking a long time?
something comes up, we might have to look at it, like Bob says, and we might have to look at it later on if the county does something, but I can see them right now saying, okay, we'll force them out, we'll just say we're gonna shut her down and see what happens.
They won't let them shut them down.
But if they do that, you know, then we might have to take a different look, but right now, I don't see us backing that one at all.
It's good to say they won't let them shut it down, and they probably won't. But they could damn sure price it out of the.
Right, the money could be coming in.
Well, then we might have to address that at that time.
You know, and
Right
that's
now,
one of my,
That's more likely what they would do. They hate to read it.
Yep, we're just gonna jack it up. Can't get a guy to, yeah.
you know, and that's one of the critiques I have of how the system's been administered by the county is there's never been any intentionality in my service to look at, you know, things through like the state revolving loan fund or these other funding mechanisms to do some of the things that are needed. Or even there was a program that came out last year for utility bill forgiveness. It was through MSHDA. We literally gave them everything to do this and said, here are the things you have to do. And they didn't do it because they had record delinquencies last year. you know, so.
Yeah, okay. Well,
I got what I need.
no, but I mean, you wanted to know whether or not we were gonna go for it.
No, I don't
I
think-
mean, if this is the
Yeah, I don't,
feeling.
I'm not hearing any differences on the village's long-term position, so.
Right, that's what we needed to know. You need to know. Number 4, unexcused or excused absences.
Okay,
You
Freudian-
meant that, but.
Yeah,
Start getting rid of
No, I
people.
didn't.
was a Freudian slip.
It's an old teacher slip.
Yeah, there you go.
Excused absences. Versus
Well,
what dates?
December through all the way till May, I'm gonna be gone. May meeting I can make. After November, I'm done.
Okay.
And once again, I'll throw it out there. I know I'm gone 5 months a year, and if anybody has a problem with that, I'm more than happy to step down, but I was told that right now, I should stay on, so. And I'm more than happy to stay on, but.
Hence he's running.
Well, I even voted for myself.
Oh,
You're the only one.
Well, that's true, but I voted for you, Charlie, and I voted for everybody, and I voted for the proposal, and it's all done. Everything I voted.
You're gonna be gone what, October to what?
I'll be gone from Thursday on through, I'll be back in May. And I will be watching you.
okay, scary.
Yeah, I
We're
got
gonna let
it.
you lead the pledge.
I'll lead it.
Charlie always makes me look at it, he's going 1 more month at least, I like
I'll
that.
be back in May.
Yeah, but you're leaving, you're not gonna be here in November. I know.
It's because he doesn't hunt.
I don't hunt.
I'm not hunting.
I'm going
I
down.
can't go nothing.
Can't do
All right,
anything.
what's, Brent's gonna be here every time probably.
I'll be here.
So the
I'll be here.
difference,
I can't do it.
the difference between excused and unexcused is unexcused absences in the charter. Once you reach a certain threshold, the council can declare the seat vacated. So if you miss more than 3 consecutive meetings, I think that also might be in the council rules that more than 25% of the meetings in a
Right.
year, if they're unexcused, regular meetings, not special meetings, regular meetings.
I'm here, I'll be here,
If they're unexcused,
Yeah.
regular meetings,
yeah,
not special.
you're here, right? You're not leaving us for a long time.
Yeah, but if you-
No, my wife's. No, she. She's
getting a new
house.
I know,
Okay,
So we just have 2 right now,
Just two.
2 takers on the table?
yeah. I'm staying.
okay. Got that? Public comment. Jessica?
You had asked about Union Township's, water availability fee.
Yep.
$57 and some change per quarter. And that's from 0 to 15,000 gallons.
Oh my gosh.
And then $2.30 after the 15,000 gallons.
Yeah, but I can see where it's more expensive, but you can't write off as much, you
Right.
get very limited
Right.
numbers.
So theirs is a $57 charge per quarter,
Theirs is cheaper than the county, yes.
Yes.
and that's it. They don't get a usage fee?
That,
They do.
they,
if go
they,
over
they
that.
get,
That is the
it's the usage.
That is the
Yeah.
usage fee.
Yeah,
They're over
so
50.
everybody pays the 57. If you go over your 15,000 gallons in the quarter, then you're gonna tack on the $2.30 per 1,000 gallons.
And Isabella, you pay every drop you use, plus your use.
Right.
You don't get
So how
any,
much, how much is their charge for 15,000 gallons, do you know?
I don't think I've ever used 15,000 gallons.
You gotta flush the toilet.
Now, when you're paying for it by the gallon, you know.
Oh, boy.
It's a once a week function.
On a rainy day, we should go outside. There you go. Good thing there's a big oak tree.
Oh, my.
Just, one quick thing, going back to the roads, when you're talking about the Pager ratings and stuff like that, I have noticed, and I use my road as specific as I see it every day. The areas where the trees tend to be and the shade and stuff like that, that part of the road seems to really break up and go downhill faster than the areas that are not exposed to that stuff. I'm assuming it has more to do with the winter ice, that kind of stuff, but maybe it just doesn't dry out as fast either, being in the shade, but when we go down this road again of doing local streets, and I'm focusing on local streets only, I definitely want to do the special assessments. It went over really well last time. I like the idea that each road, let the people that live on that road make up their mind if they wanted to redo that. And if they got more than 51% of the people that said no, we didn't do it. So to me, that looks like the cooperation part of it, saying, you guys make up your mind what you want to do. You know, we still have what, 2 roads that are still not paved, 5 roads. And we've even had people come in after we did the project, wanted to do the project, and then they balked at what the cost was gonna be, because they would have to put the bill themselves. So I think it's something we do need to start talking about now, with the idea that 2 years, maybe 3 years down the road, this needs to come to reality. We're already asking for more money here, coming here in November for 2 different things. So to me, hopefully they'll be in that. We can do another 10-year bond or whatever, what we have to do to roads, but I would like you guys to start talking about it and start going down that road now. Get it out there to the public, you know, let them know this is coming instead of being a surprise. That's it.
Thank you. Any comments from the council or anything? Okay. Tim, next meeting is
November 22nd.